the Jews, 12 tribes of the Jews. One of them used hadith. In fact, the true Jewish, by the way, from Egyptian, not Palestinian, Musa alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, Egyptian. They claimed Palestine, but not, but the key is through the allies, United States of America, and in fact, now the Prime Minister of England, he is there. Why? Great country, wonder, a place, 5,000 people. 5,000 people. Why? I'm going to speak about this. I maybe, inshallah, will join everyone. Sunnahfollowers are there, Sister Layla? Sister Layla? Oh.
There's a
okay.
signature thumbs up.
Okay. Thumbs up the meeting. Hi, language. Sister, okay. Brother, don't worry.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ask Allah tonight for clarity of thought, to be precise and be as informative as I need to be.
Your voice is a little more clear.
Okay, is that good?
Yes. Yaman.
Of course, salam alaikum to our distinguished brothers here in the masjid today, as well as the brothers and sisters who are watching from all around the world. Last time I was here, we had a little bit of a happy talk. We talked about salah, and we talked about hidden meanings and hidden secrets of the salah. Anyone who didn't see that, it's on Sunnahfollowers Facebook page. I recommend anyone watch it and do the research on your own of some things that we covered. But since that time, a lot happened. In fact, it was the next day. It was the next morning. I was waking up to take my kids to baseball games that all hell broke loose. And we have this go on all the time throughout my lifetime. Seems every 4 to 5 years, you have another attack, you have another justification, and you hear the same talking heads with the same talking points in the media that you've always heard before. Israel and its right to defend itself. Israel is America's #1 ally. You got to get the terrorists. You know, you hear this rhetoric. I'm sorry for my voice. I've been really brutally sick all week, so I'll probably get a crack in and out. Yesterday, I was kind of concerned I wouldn't be able to be here. When the Sheikh called me last night, I was like a 12-year-old boy, you know, with the voice cracking in and out. So what I hope to unpack tonight is the mystery of this relationship. Israel, America's #1 ally. We hear it all the time. I've heard it since I was a boy. It's one of the sayings that Adolf Hitler had. He said, the more of a lie, the more you repeat the lie, the more people will believe it. And you get people in lockstep. Israel's the greatest ally. Israel's the greatest ally with no analytical thinking or examining of evidence. And when you dare to challenge that in the average American's eyes, what you immediately get is condemnation. You get hostility. How dare you? Because it's almost like mom's cooking at this point. They've been hearing those things since they were toddlers. They've been hearing those things since they were 2 and 3 years old. In the churches, you're hearing those things. How dare you question that narrative? Well, tonight we're going to question that narrative. We are going to examine what an ally is. And then I'm going to give historical examples, which as always, as I say in here, don't take my word for it. Everything I say is documented. Please feel free to research yourself. Fact check if you like. You will see it's all documented. We are going to see if Israel meets the criteria of an ally by the definition I think that anyone here would have of such a statement. We are going to explore the relationship between these Zionists and our federal government, our immigration policy, our domestic policies, all their different involvements, particularly in the financial sectors, and how they've been able to pull the wool over the eyes of the average person. Before we officially begin, I want to preface all of this by stating that there has been a massive amount of Jewish individuals who have stood on the side of Palestine in the last 2 weeks. We are not here to hate them. Yeah, we are not here to criticize them. We are not referring to those people. When I say that word, or I most likely will be saying the word Zionist, tonight, we're referring to an elite global cartel of you can say borderline Satan worshipers in some cases, as we're going to show some of the deeds that they've sanctioned over the years. We are not talking about the average Jew who's taking care of his family, who philosophically differs with us. There, like I said, have been a lot of Jews who've come to our side in Israel as well, and we are not going to turn our back on them. We are going to treat them as Muslims do, with respect and kindness, and inshallah, they'll come over to our side one day. So I just want to get that out of the way before we begin.
Before we finish, very important. The Jews right now, the rabbi in the occupied land Palestine, they new have a Torah, a new Torah. In these verses, our Quran is complete, alhamdulillah. Can't change a dot in the Quran. The Torah, new Torah, we start there. I mean, most of the rabbi in occupied land Palestine, they say now obligation, obligation to kill all Palestinians, not only in Gaza, my city. All the Palestinians should be killed. Another rabbi, all the Arabs should be killed. Come is not recommend. It's not only one person. All the rabbi in occupied land Palestine, they say you have to be killed. And it's also, if we are superior and if we're the slaves, and not gonna United States of America slaves for us. Who say that? The rabbis, not once. All of them say that the United States of America Biden is slaves for us. He's not, he cannot be, he's not even there to say a Jewish, not a Jewish. He wants to be a Jewish, but he's not. He is not a slave for us. Whatever I say, by the way, is documented also.
So, and we're going to have a statement later tonight from the Prime Minister, what he said in 1990, what America is in his eyes. Very lines up with what the Sheikh just said here. So someone, excuse me, as I grew up in the 1980s, it was the newspaper era. And you got your news largely around the kitchen table in the morning from the newspapers. You go and you look at archives, you'd see one newspaper in one city was basically almost identical, at least with the national stories, to the other. So it was very easy to control the narratives in those days. And you had 4 to 5 television stations, ABC, CBS, NBC, all with the same gentleman. I grew up in an environment here in the South where it was a religious duty to love Israel. It was taught in the churches, it was taught in the newspapers, and it was taught in the television set. Every experience I had as a boy growing up was seeing the typical Arab guy debating the calm, cool, collective Jewish representative on TV. And the Arab guy was screaming and shouting and all these things. Later on, of course, as I got older and wise, I realized, of course, that those guys were actors. And they're still using this same tactic today, by the way. If you ever see any of these people on TV who intentionally make a buffoon out of our positions, it's not by accident. They're still using the exact same tactics that they used during that period of time. So me, like so many, I thought, okay, well, this is a pretty open and shut case, isn't it? Look who the good guys are, look who the bad guys are. It's obvious, it's night and day. But as I started getting older, I started reading a lot, started learning about history, and I started evaluating, in fact, this relationship that was going on. I started hearing a lot of whispers, from people telling me Jews controlled the media. I didn't believe it. How is that possible? How could 2% of the population manage to control the entire media of the United States? That's got to be a lie. But me, I'm the type of person to refute. I want to study. I want to find out. So I started getting heavily involved. So let's see what the ally we're dealing with here. The United States was the first country, exactly 11 minutes after the foundation of the state of Israel, to recognize Israel as a state. It took 11 minutes in May of 1948 for the United States to do that. First country in the world. We just saw recently 97-0. The Senate had a vote on whether to stand with Israel or the Palestinians in this conflict. 97-0. Any of you who are Americans, we grow up hearing they can't cross the aisles. They can't come together. They can't come together on a tax break for needy families. They can't come together on the border. They can't get the funding for this. They certainly came together here. 97-0. The other ones were, I guess they were out sick that day. And they would have voted as well. We would have had it 100 to nothing. We saw also this week the MAGA Barbie, as I call her, Lauren Boebert. She is a pinup girl politician for the Republican Party. She does all the pictures with the guns and all the things, and all the Donald Trump MAGA supporters, they love this. She's on the side of the people. She came out and endorsed the state of Israel. Then you had the other side, Chuck Schumer, who's about as Zionist as they come. Obviously, we know where he's sided. But you have, again, these two figures, polar opposites, that don't agree, supposedly, on any issue that matters in the life of the average American. His grocery bill, his border, his safety, his police force, can't agree on any of it. But when it came to this one issue only, they put aside partisan differences and they come together. How deep does it go? Well, Barack Obama, remember him? He was going to be the savior. He was the new guy getting in there. It was fresh blood. He was an outsider. He wasn't part of the establishment, even though his number one donor was Goldman Sachs. I don't think you get more inside, as I said to some of the brothers earlier, than Goldman Sachs. Obama had 21 total Jews in his cabinet. These were high-level positions, Secretary of State. You had basically, Homeland Security. You had Attorney General. And this is just at one given moment in time. You can go look up in the archives. It's actually on a Israeli website even. I saw some of this information when I was researching to get the numbers right. But it was even more than this, because this is just at one time. There was, throughout the administration, positions open, people left, replaced. It's up to 40 people around there, sorry for my voice. So Obama had a huge presence of Zionists within his government. They are less than 2%, again, I keep mentioning that tonight, of the American population, but yet they were close to 1/3 of his government. So Donald Trump comes along. He's really an outsider. Donald Trump was, they didn't want him to win. He was the enemy. We're told that all the time. The media didn't like him. The media wanted to put him in jail. The media is against him. So Donald Trump surely didn't have these same results, did he? He had 20 at one given moment in time. So he was one down, from where Obama was at his peak of having these same individuals, dual nationals in most cases, representing his government. And every time we get one of these, the media will come out and they'll celebrate, this is the most Jewish government we've had. And the media will just, could you imagine if you flipped the statements and you said this is the most white government we've had, how the media would react to such a statement? This is the most Hispanic, government. But they celebrated this as the ultimate triumph. So when you get Biden to come in, 24. So we had 21, 20, and 24 over the last few presidencies, covering a span from 2008 to now 2024. It's going to be 16 years. We've had over a third to a third of our positions in this government represented by 2% of the population, most of them with dual citizenship. What are the odds? I mean, they're not 40% of the population. They're less than 2% of the population, but yet extremely overrepresented. You go to your Christian circles in the evangelical movement. We have these Christians in this country. They have the mega churches. They pack tens of thousands of people, millionaires, these guys. Well, one of them recently, his name was Greg Locke, and he was a Trump MAGA, pastor. What did Greg Locke have to say about the conflict? He said basically, quote, destroy the dome, destroy it completely. And what we're going to do, build the new temple so Jesus can come back. Mm-hmm. So we have this pastor here encouraging his Christian congregation to destroy the Dome of the Rock so Jesus can, if that happens. So you have gullible audiences, out there are going to now cheer this on because that's what the pastor said. He's a holy man. This is going to bring Jesus back. So you can see again, when you look at these guys, whether they're my generation, the Pat Robertson, who used to run the very anti-Islam, anti-Palestinian show called the 700 Club. This was very big in the 90s. And he would show how horrible the Palestinian people were. He used to say these people were evil. and little old Israel has a right to defend itself. Is there issues with the sound? Okay. So you had several of these, the Billy Grahams, it's all the same. And again, they don't miss a beat. There was different ones when I was growing up to the ones now, but the message is the same. You would think along the lines, because this isn't exactly something that is quoted from their scriptures. This is more of a matter of opinion, that you would have some differing opinion, but yet you don't. So you see a total unification in the majority of the Christian, unlimited, in fact, Christian support. Billions of dollars with an S on the end of that, every year donated in annual aid. The Americans are paying extremely high prices in the grocery store. Our rents are going through the roof. Our government says we don't have enough money to secure the border, where we're letting in every single day tens of thousands of military-aged men, 18 to 35 years old, with no job skills, no experience, and a lot of times don't even speak the language. But we can't secure the border, but we can give billions to Israel. So you would think, with all this support, all this love that you're seeing, is it mutual? Are we receiving the same thing back from the Israelis? Because when you talk about an ally, you talk about someone who has your back. You talk about someone who you can count on. When the going gets rough, they're there. I used to have a friend, he's no longer with us, hopefully he's resting in peace now. Anytime at 2 a.m, he'd get out of bed to come help me if something happened. I mean, my car broke down. It's the kind of ally, kind of friend he was. So how has Israel repaid us? In 1954, we're going back here, we had a little event called the Lavon Affair. There was an Israeli intelligence agent who goes by the name of Penis. I am not lying, cannot make this up. Penis Lavon. He was an intelligence operative working in Egypt. What was the plan? Let's attack British and American schools, libraries, and movie theaters during peak times of the day to basically blame it on those crazy Muslim terrorists. The overall plan was they wanted to keep the British in Egypt. They did not want to have an independent Egypt. That's where it was going, because they were concerned about a later conflict, arising. So they were planning to kill American, British citizens, the most vulnerable of us, the ones who are complete civilians who are in movie theaters and libraries, to blame it on those bad, evil Muslims. They're committing jihad. They're blowing themselves up for Allah. Well, fortunately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had other ideas. The Egyptian authorities caught these gentlemen. 2 of them were executed. 2 more of them were as accomplices, were given life sentences. Something very interesting happened at the end of this. Winston Churchill, who I was told my whole life was the best prime minister England ever had, he went together with the Jewish Congress to try to get these guys out. Here you have an intelligence agency trying to kill your ally, again, going back to that word, trying to kill your own people. And your prime minister goes down there to try to ensure they don't get executed. Fortunately, they were. But this just can kind of show you where we're going here. It's going to get a lot worse. What an ally, huh? Let's go to the USS Liberty in 1967. This is a famous story, all verified online. Some of the survivors are still alive to tell their tale. That's not what was supposed to happen. The USS Liberty was sailing in the Sinai Peninsula, standard patrol in international waters, and Israeli ships approached and attacked. The American sailors fought valiantly. In fact, in the beginning, they realized who was attacking. And they tried to say, look, we're Americans. What are you doing? The attacks proceeded. Overall, 34 killed, 171 wounded. But fortunately, Israelis don't fight too well. It's very easy to bully a Palestinian 10-year-old child and jerk him by the arm. It's very easy to bully a Palestinian girl. But how are they in actual hand-to-hand military combat with an equal combatant? These brave Americans fought them off, and they lived to tell the tale. Now, you would think that the media, even back then,
Yeah. It's,
You would think your greatest ally attacks your ship, neutral waters, tries to kill all your men. In fact, killed 34 of them, injures 171. That these men would have been front page news. They would have been the talk of the country. They could have made movies about how heroic they were, poised under fire, so to speak. No, it was buried. These men got a ceremony where they received medals in the basement. It was not public, a standard procedure to receive these medals of valor and medals of honor. They got it in the basement. It was not allowed to get to the public. The official Israeli story was, oops, we're sorry. We thought you were someone else. And that is not an excuse. Obviously, there was an American flag flying prominently on that ship, and those sailors defended it with their lives. It was there. What the goal was they wanted to blame this again on you know who, those Egyptian Muslim terrorists. They attacked the United States, so the United States would then go in and finish off Egypt, which would make things a lot easier, obviously, for them. What a great ally we have. You can find videos online. It is a tradition in Israel for certain Jews, they get the children even to do this, to spit, on Christians. These videos are all over now. I was telling people about this in 2001 and getting called all kinds of horrible.
they will call from Gaza.
Well, you want to take the call?
No. Let's mute. Oops. I don't know how they call. Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Are we good?
Yeah, we are good.
Okay, perfect. You have videos. Recently, there was another one of these incidents where they threatened this woman. They were pulling at her hair. They were spitting on her, calling her all kinds of vile, disgusting names that we associate with women who are of poor quality. This woman was a missionary, and hardly a woman of that distinction, which in our religion is a grave sin to defame a pure, pious woman. And the Israeli government's response, the police force, I should say, was not really that big of a deal. It's not really that much of a crime. These are the people that they defend. These are the people that in their churches, they tell you, bless, who blesses Israel will be blessed. Who curses Israel will be cursed. Just the other day, a church, Orthodox church, 1,000 years it stood, destroyed, 150 Palestinian Christians killed. Muslims occupied that land for almost 1,400 years. That church was there. That church stood. These guys have the land for 75 years, and the church is destroyed. And I always want to ask if any Christians ever happen to watch our videos, inshallah, ask yourself, who's the ally? So we go on.
Something very important. This church actually, church and hospital. Because actually, مستشفى المعمداني, when newborn baby born in America, Christian, they take the child to the pool or something,
Baptizing.
That's baptizing. That's called the hospital for that name, baptizing name. And church in Rome used to be. More than 2,000 years used to be.
Yes, 1,000. I meant longer.
Yeah, and suddenly they destroyed the whole hospital and the church. And not only that, our president of the United States of America, accusing Palestinians did that. I know there's no militants, sick people and refugees, male and female, and 72% children. But still accusing Palestinians did that. Who? Our president of the United States of America. Continue.
Oh, no doubt. Let's see some comments that our great ally has had to say. In fact, not just any member of our great ally, the actual Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. is the golden calf, and we will suck it dry, chop it up, sell it off piece by piece until nothing is left but a welfare state that's completely dependent on us. These are the words of Benjamin Netanyahu in 1990. And if you look at what is happening today, this is exactly what is going on. All of our resources have been taken from the people. They're all privatized. We are now, Biden is trying to send $100 billion both to Ukraine. We're going to talk a little bit about Ukraine in a minute, how the whole laundering scheme works.
Ahora, Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu is a New Yorker, he's American. He's American, he born here. He went to the army, and now that's why he's supported by the United States of America. Go ahead.
So we see, what ally speaks that way? This is speaking with absolute hostility and hatred. He is saying to us exactly what they are doing. And how have they done that? Well, first, UN Resolution 3379 was released in 1977. And this is where Zionism was declared as racism. This resolution would last for 14 years until it was overturned in 1991 as being anti-Semitic. The United States, again, the great ally that it is, largely influential in overturning that designation. You have the Hart-Celler Act of 1965. So when I talked about earlier, bleeding America dry, Benjamin Netanyahu told us in his own words. What was the Hart-Celler Immigration Act of 1965? It was where they changed the immigration policy of the United States forever. Led by Zionists, heavy amount of money, and sellout politicians in Washington, they were successfully able to open up the floodgates of this country, bringing in unlimited amounts of unvetted immigrants. The policy before was a merit-based immigration system. If you had skills, we'll take you. If you were a loser who had nothing to offer but crime, drugs, and gangs, you were not allowed in here. It was that simple. Now we have fentanyl pouring in across our borders, crack cocaine, methamphetamines, every single day pouring into our communities, being mixed in with candies for children, killing people. You can look up the fentanyl deaths, it's through the roof. Every year it goes up and up because we have an uncontrolled border. We know who to thank. Again, our great ally who opened the floodgates. We are now taking care of so many illegals in New York City that they had to release a statement yesterday that we're going to be broke in a matter of a month if this continues. We're having to house these people in Airbnbs because we don't have the infrastructure. No society can take an influx of this many people this quickly. People who don't speak the language, who are not trying to fit in, who don't want to be a part of the culture. You are seeing New York City being absolutely destroyed by this. Ben Shapiro, in fact, if you've ever seen this gentleman, he is a famous Jewish pundit, hero of the conservative movement, recently said that they should kill all the Palestinians. These people are all terrorists. Even the child, he'll grow up to be one. So let's take care of them, all of them. But then what did Ben Shapiro say the next week? He said the American government should do their part and take as many Palestinian refugees as possible. So if they're terrorists, Mr. Ben Shapiro, on one hand, they're all worthy of genocide. But then you're telling your greatest ally they should take them in? That's a major contradiction. And it only makes sense if you know their plans. They want the Gazans out. They want the Palestinians out. They want us to pay for it, and they want to expand the land. That's why they're doing what they're doing now. That's why they're blowing up the mosques and the churches. They're leveling the land because they're going to build it back up. The plan is to send the Palestinians to Europe and the United States and make us pay for it, put our taxpayers further and further in debt for their war crimes. Greater Israel, all the way to the Tigris and Euphrates with the blue stripes symbolized on the flag. Expanding all through northern Saudi Arabia, all the way into Iraq and what they believe is their other ancient homeland of Babylon. The extra thing, I can go into that one as well. Some of their other war crimes, we're not unique. They don't just love us to do these things. We can go back and look at a couple other societies, some of the major war crimes that this outfit has committed in the last 100 years. 3,000 900 tons of explosives were dropped on the city of Dresden in 1945 at the end of World War II. People were burned alive like an inferno of firebombs. The war was over. The Russians had broke, into Germany. Germany was collapsing. This was one of the most unreported war crimes. In fact, probably is the most unreported war crime in human history. Firebombing innocent people who were non-combatants in a war. The United States is complicit, in that action. In the communist revolution in Russia, a Jew who went by the name of Leon Trotsky, whose name was really Lev Bronstein, changed his name, partnered up with one of these Zionists, Vladimir Lenin, took the ideology of a gentleman named Mordecai Levy, who changed his name affectionately to Karl Marx, and they put numerous 20+ million white Christians in what they called the Gulag system. This is one of the biggest genocides, unreported attempted genocides in human history. The Commissars, the Bolsheviks, all the different various names, all the same people, same bloodline, same ideology, same genetics, up to 1.5 to 1.7 million. By government figures, it's higher than that, perished in these torture chambers from the time of 1930 to 1950. You don't hear about that. What a great ally. What great people America has chosen to welcome into its highest positions of government, who has chose to have this special, relationship with. So how do they do it? How has this tiny minority of people been able to achieve so much so quickly? They have one idea, one scam, if you will, that has been the most powerful in human history: paper money. Paper money has allowed them to print mountains of capital with no property behind it, no assets behind it. Let me go to a computer screen and type in 10 million and credit to my account and see what would happen. I go to jail for fraud. Let the Federal Reserve do that. They call it fractional reserve banking. They can create money out of thin air. In 1913, the United States gave a cartel of private Zionist-controlled banks to have the right to print the currency of this country. We call it The Creature from Jekyll Island. It's a very good book by D. Edward Griffith, who chronicles this event, who the men were, who the Zionist bankers were, how they got this legislation passed. Once they passed it, it was on. Slowly but surely, you saw every aspect of American life being bought up. It is the greatest, you can say demonic invention in human history, printing paper money backed by nothing. Because if you remember, the original United States currency was backed by gold. Yeah. And they've slowly thrown that away. Over half of the currency in US dollars that exists today has been created in the last 2 to 3 years. COVID-19, ring a bell. All those checks they were mailing out, all those closed businesses, all that money they gave, say, oh, I'm sorry we locked you down. I'm sorry we didn't let you work. Here, we're going to give you $1,600. Yes. While over $1 trillion was lost to China alone in the COVID aid money that came from our tax dollars. And what China is doing with it's enough to fund their military for the next 30 years, based on current projections, something like that. I may be wrong by a few, 5 or so. But you get the point. Here again, our greatest ally, taxing us to slavery, locking us down. We'll talk about COVID in another day, another time, to go through how that was essentially an all Jewish operation, as well, and how they were able to create a massive amount of debt quickly, which is the reason that our grocery prices are so high. It's the reason our rent has gone through the roof. You can't just create all this money and throw it into the market and expect the dollar value to stay the same. So paper money, as I've said to people before, the merchandise may change, but the merchant remains the same. They use that paper money to fund and control pornography. Playboy magazine, Hugh Hefner, Zionist, he was the first. Al Goldstein, one of the head director or head guys involved in pornography. You go and you look at all these sites, I'm not going to name them. People know who they are. They've heard of them. Some hopefully haven't, but a lot of people know them. All controlled by the same cartel. When you're looking at the degeneracy, obviously we talked about the media before, the banks, Hollywood. All the major Hollywood film studios, the directors were putting out these violent, disgusting, anti-family, anti-decency, messages that come from Hollywood. And I think I mentioned in one of my previous lectures, the term Hollywood came from the wood that spellcasters used to use for spells. There was a group called the Medes, where we get the term media from, mediate. The Medes use Hollywood, in their rituals. And that's why they conveniently chose that name, because it's about casting a spell on your mind. They have a concept, it's artificial style, where they can trick you from the television into believing the reality that you see there is reality out here in the outside world. And they've done a very good job of that. Every Muslim's a terrorist. Every white person's a racist. Every black person's a criminal. You see all this, every man is stupid. That's the new one now. Every father is bad. All the backwards reality messages that we see coming from this media. None of it's by accident. I've seen the progression of this in my life. The LGBTQ, we've covered that at length here before. You look at, I highlighted in that lecture who did the first 2 transgendered surgeries, both in Europe and America, same group of people. Go and look at who the major figures in that movement are. Same group of people. Same concept of destabilizing the family, breaking us down, and ultimately population reduction being one of the big goals. BlackRock, Larry Fink, can't leave out BlackRock. BlackRock is buying up all the residential properties in the United States right now and renting them out. My rent has gone up 3 times the last 2 years. My rent didn't go up once in the previous 5. We are going to be rent slaves. Home ownership, no. As Klaus Schwab in his World Economic Forum said, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And we're well on our way. BlackRock, again, I named the gentleman who runs that organization. BlackRock is so powerful that they buy up so much shares in the corporations that they're able to dictate the agendas of these corporations. We saw a classic example of these techniques in the FTX crypto scam, where a Zionist who went by the name of Sam Bankman, can't make this up again, Bankman-Fried. Mr. Bankman-Fried, connected to all the insiders in Washington, connected to the intelligence community through his family, created a crypto exchange. He created his own cryptocurrency known as FTT tokens. FTT were basically numbers on a computer screen. He created millions and hundreds of millions of these, and they rose to about $40 in value, which was money, again, created out of thin air. So how the scam would work, our politicians would send the money to Ukraine. People inside the Ukraine would buy from him. Then he would take the profit and donate it back to the politicians. All this was exposed.
Oh my God.
He had donated more money as an independent than anyone in the country because it was never his money. He created a fake cryptocurrency, made a ton of money selling it, used it as collateral for his loans. The United States government takes our tax dollars, sends it to their buddies in the Ukraine. They then go and buy from him. He takes the money, donates back to them. And of course, who did he support? There's no even answer, that question. So you see things like this, going on all over. Again, I mentioned COVID. I don't want to mention it here because there's a couple things I want to highlight that we witnessed then that we're witnessing now. Rochelle Walensky, director of the CDC, Zionist. Rochelle Walensky is one who you ran a social distance from everybody, or you were going to die, supposedly, even though you occupied that space 2 seconds after the person in front of you vacates it. Wearing masks in public, that so many people in this country did, falsely believing and trusting the experts. Rochelle Walensky, Zionist. Burke, Zionist. The head of Pfizer, Borla, Zionist, who received billions of our taxpayer dollars to make a vaccines. He had the patents for it in 2008. You know, we got the records. They have this stuff out there before. And for billions of taxpayer dollars to sell this poison to the Americans. And that's a great deal, where you get billions of dollars to cover your production costs. You don't have to spend anything to produce, and then you make all that money. Hell of a deal if you can get it. You know, the COVID scam, I highlight that now because the dancing nurses were one of the things that we saw during that period of time. Everybody remember that? Where you had the nurses on TikTok mocking us, telling us in our face, this is all a lie, we got you. Now what are we seeing? Dancing Israeli soldier TikTok videos. You seen those?
I have, yeah.
Well, this is a shaitan trick, you can say. It's a mocking of us, laughing in our face at what they're doing and that they're going to get away with it, at least in their eyes. When COVID was going on, they're mocking us. Oh, the hospitals are so dangerous. Look, they're dancing. Are they really that dangerous? If people are really dying, as the media was telling us, I don't think they'd be dancing in the hospital. Now we're seeing the same thing with the Israeli soldiers, these females doing their TikTok videos and mocking us at what they are doing. And the fact that they believe, again, they're going to get away with it. But I think this time, inshallah, things are going to be different. It's not working because I have seen monumental change. I saw a poll the other day that indicated Americans above the age of 75 supported Israel at about 90%. You got down to 60 years old, it was about 60+%. As you went down the ages, but then something remarkable happened. We got from 25 to 17, and it was in the 20s. So we are seeing that the younger generation is waking up to the lies. The older generations from the newspaper era I spoke about earlier are still asleep. They're too old to change the ways, but the youth is the future. We are seeing things I've never seen before. I mean, the conversations I'm seeing on Twitter are things I was having in my living room 20 years ago. I mean, I never thought those things would reach the public, but they are reaching the public. We saw Turkish youth in Turkey burn down a McDonald's. Why? Because McDonald's was donating food to the Israeli army. There's one thing, you watch all these Muslims on YouTube, show something right quick, get that out of my pocket. They always tell you, watch our videos, donate money to us, but they never tell you what you really need to do. You need to use this. The power of this, what is it? The wallet, your money. That's how you beat them. You know, when we as Muslims continue to patronize their business, there's over 1 billion of us in this world. We have economic power that we are just simply naive and unaware of. You know, you see all these controlled Muslim, dawah guys on YouTube. They tell you to go to their website, buy their courses. They don't ever tell you what you need to do, what we can do. You know, what we can do right now is what those Turkish youth did, but metaphorically. Boycott. They put a Starbucks. I went to Umrah in 2011. They put a Starbucks right in the middle of Mecca. And it was packed with Arabs. It was packed with Muslims. Yeah. It was shocking to me at the time because the Starbucks logo is a Babylonian goddess. But in Mecca, they removed it, so it was halal, Okay, they removed it. Well, we kept the company, but we just removed the picture. And Arabs pack Starbucks all over the Middle East. My wife is Arab. And I yell at her all the time, stop doing this. Stop giving them your money. We need to go, and I want to do a lecture called Controlling Our Islamic Dollars, where I'm going to have more time to outline the major companies as well as the small ones that we need to avoid doing business with, because these companies are aiding and abetting our own destruction. Morally, yes. Socially, psychologically, they are aiding and abetting our destruction. They're anti-Islam, they're anti-family, they're anti-everything that we stand for. And that, to me, right now, as people ask me, what can we do? Obviously, I can't go and fight myself. I can't go show up in Palestine and make a difference. It's not even easy for us even to get in there. There are sometimes different forms that we can do, different things that we can do within our own lives at that moment in time. Being selective about where we invest and where we spend our money. Because I guarantee you, if 1 billion Muslims, we come together and we start saying enough is enough because our dollars are not going whole system would collapse.
Okay.
You got anything you want to add?
No. Question.
I want to make a statement. I believe it's 2 billion Muslims around the world.
Oh, yeah, I don't have the exact numbers.
How many Muslims in the world?
2 billion.
2 billion, yes. 2 billion Muslims in the world. And in America, how many Muslims in America? The majority, by the way, most Christian and Muslim in America. So, well, inshallah, this topic is very important topic for everyone. And actually, before Brother Yusuf came in the morning, we discussed many things. And especially now, we have to understand the reality about those people. You know, what's happening in Gaza Strip. If what's happening in 1948 migrate from Palestine to Jordan to Lebanon, here, all over the world, then they have the intention now to do the same thing. And unfortunately, the corrupted person, Sisi, the president of Egypt, he said, no, not here, go anywhere else. By the way, the Egyptian, the Jewish army, around 2 million people. The Egyptian army, by the way, the Egyptian army more than 10 millions soldiers in Egypt. But this and airplanes and tanks are huge army in the Middle East. But this the army, Egyptian army is nothing. Like a feather, nothing. I have experience with them big time. When I was in university, I was in the army, Egyptian army. I found out they have absolutely nothing, unfortunately. But they are huge numbers. Okay. Plus 1978, when they used to be before when I born 1961. All my life, the Egyptians controlling Gaza Strip. From whom? From the Jews. The war 1967, they are so coward, they left the Palestinians and they ran away. And have the army that killed by the Jews. And now the first people make embassy, Egyptian embassy in Tel Aviv. And unfortunately, step by step, before the war, Saudi Arabia almost Saudi Arabia. Emirates started, Bahrain, and Egypt first, and Jordan after that, and then Emirates now, and Bahrain and Oman, especially when you have oil. But alhamdulillah, we have to understand the reality of this. This topic is very important, and we're going to continue, inshallah, in that. When it is a question now, Sunnahfollowers, if you have a question, Sister Leila, tell us about the question because the time we have 10 minutes, inshallah, left. Also here, if you have a question, let us know, inshallah. Yes, bro.
I just want to add something. You mentioned Obama, and Obama had more people, and he was said that you cannot be a president in America if you're not Zionist under the flag of Zionist.
I can tell now you can tell. Now after this war in Gaza, you can tell. Imagine we are those militants, I don't know how many, less than 1% of our team in Gaza. Less than 1%. United States of America Army, France Army, German Army, England Army, and Italy Army. 5 armies to support those what? Around 30,000 people. Imagine that. Imagine this. But I hope, yes, I felt 7 of my family got shahada. And my family, normally if somebody died, they were sorry. You know, my family was my family was what? When we have wedding, we say, happy. They are happy because we have a shaheed in our family. My niece actually, 2 days before the war, she got killed. 2 days soon I'm coming to see you. Soon I'm coming to see you. I'm gonna fix this month here. I'm gonna vacation 1 month and see you. What is it? Khali is my uncle, which is my niece. So Khali, I think gonna see me in the Jannah. She prepared herself to die, and she got shahada 2 days ago. And her brother next to her. He actually held her brother, held his sister, both of them got killed. And the older son, Muhammad, got his right arm and left leg also. And baby Zakaria also in the hospital, 2 years old. And his father got killed, and his mom got. All in my family. And 1 week, my cousin. And not only that, the number was 3,800 got shahada, right? I just want to conclude, I said 20,000 got injured, 23,000 got injured. Today, after the Khutbah Jum'ah, 7 people got shahada in our state, in Gaza State. And by the way, this money, right? We support the government with our tax. This money for our own tax. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I want to add something I forgot to mention earlier. In 2013, The Economist magazine had a front page called The Road to Hell. And on that was a series of cartoon drawings where there was something that's being noticed now, very suspicious. You want to go and look this up. In the top of the cartoon, you saw Netanyahu and Hamas on hand gliders.
Yes.
The motto of the Jewish Mossad is, by deception, we shall make war. And tonight, I have shown several of their attempts. There's also a famous Jew who does the rounds in YouTube, Zionist, also Rumble, who was by the name of Hayim bin Pesach. He is one of the more anti-Arab, he's a follower of a gentleman, I don't know if you know the name, Rabbi Meir Kahane.
Of course.
Yeah, one of the most genocidal Zionists of all time. Well, originally this Hayim bin Pesach's name was Victor Van Seal. And what was he trying to do? He got arrested, basically, and charged because he was trying to blow up Jews, to blame on the Russians, to get the Jews to then move to Israel. So you see here that they will even kill their own people to further this agenda. You go to the hand glider thing. What that's telling me, 2013, this was already well known and planned. They've got $1 billion missile defense system, but yet hand gliders all of a sudden got through this. They have intelligence all over that area. This thing just has PSYOP written all over it. This is basically a false flag. This was a justification to do what I was talking about earlier, which is level the area, send the refugees to Europe and America, and then rebuild settlements. Yes, sir.
Are you planning on doing a lecture explaining exactly how and when the Jewish people deviated from the truth?
Oh, you mean to, yes, I want to talk about the difference between Ashkenazi, that is a term that's often heard. And a lot of times I know that some of these Muslims work for them. When I see them use the term European Jews, they're not European Jews. These Jews are Khazars. This is a northern Turkish, at the foot of the Caucasus Mountains. I could do a breakdown eventually, what they call the 13th tribe. Most of the Jews in Israel are Ashkenazi Jews. They go by this designation.
But
They're not biblical.
Sorry, we have to distinguish very important. Distinguish our many Jewish and Zionism. After we finish here, I have pictures with Rabbi in Texas, in Iowa, Rabbi. In fact, until now, the war started, the Rabbi called me. Said, please make dua for us to this peace. They are against what's going on. As I mentioned in the beginning, 3,000 Jewish went to Washington. They entered Washington's capital against Trump doing that and supporting the Jews. And so that's why I have to distinguish Jewish and as a religion and Zionism as a terrorist.
And these people that comprise the Zionist movement, which was founded by Theodore Herzl, they comprise basically on Khazars. They are not Sephardic, Abrahamic Jews in the traditional sense. Based for Judaism later as a political strategy. Most of them are atheists.
Yes.
They're not even practicing. So yes, we can at length in the future explore those topics.
Mark, Frank.
But most of the Jewish people, the real Jewish people, you know, they said they are not Israeli.
Yes.
Mm.
I agree.
They're Israeli. Like, so too many videos, you know, whatever they're talking about, you know, they said, they don't want to go, like, to Israel, you know, to live over there.
I agree with you. Yes.
Because like, they live with Palestinians over maybe over 75 years, like, now Israel, they said, you know, like, you know, this, like what they talking about, like the Israeli, you know, country, but they said they used to live with them, with the Palestinians, they used to raise their kids, you know, and share everything together, you know, that, like,
Yeah.
they are innocent.
Yeah, totally
You
innocent.
know, because I before I come to the United States, you know, I used to have like Jewish people back home in Morocco, you know, and they told me just like that. I remember like before this happened right now, they used to tell me, they said, you know, oh, we are Jewish, but we are not Israeli.
Yeah, big difference.
I hope Sister Sunnahfollowers can hear what the Haq said. A lot of Jewish actually deny the going on right now. Number one. Number two, I was praying Maghrib when I came here yesterday in the airport. So Allah Akbar, you know, Maghrib is loud, but not loud because I'm in the airport. Plus, I am inside the airplane praying Salat al-Maghrib. So Allah Akbar right here. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, and then Assalamu alaikum. We arrived here in Myrtle Beach. The moment I arrived, a family, Jewish family, came to me. I know actually with the relative. I say, sorry, what's going on in Gaza? We're against that. They are behind me. I make myself not even look at them. I don't make progress. Wallahi, brother, they came to Azerbaijan what's going on in Palestine right now. I say, no problem. We are brothers and sisters. So please, you forgive us. We are against that. And what? He cried, and I hugged him. No problem. We are brothers and sisters. So some people, as Brother Abdul said, yes, they are absolutely against. And what happened yesterday in Washington, against that. Some odd people, I believe sick people doing that. May Allah protect us. And before we finish, okay, we finish already. Who brought the pizza? Surprise me here. Who brought the pizza? Oh, takbir! Oh, Jazakallah khair. It surprised me. Honestly, since the war started, no sleepless, not complete. I canceled all of my teaching university. I canceled all my classes. The only time I speak Khutbah Jummah today, and Brother Yusuf, because I love Brother Yusuf and you. And plus, I'm living here. I have to go to Florida, and I'm seeing airplane when I go to Philadelphia. My mother-in-law, she's very sick, and my wife, she have to take care of her mom. Plus, after that, I'm in Texas. My daughter also have cancer also. So I'm scattered. That's why I cancel all my teaching in university. But I choose to be with you today. And why? Because what's happening in my city, in my people, make me cry the other night, and I cannot even do anything. And I feel I choose you or my family also to be with you. Jazakallah khair for coming. And thank you, Jazakallah, for the meeting also. Yes, sir.
Said dua. What we can do.
I mentioned that in the Jum'ah today. Yes, thank you, and Jazakallah. That's very important. What we should do is at least this week.
Try trusted fundraise or something like that.
We cannot make now. A lot of brothers and sisters, they ask me to send money. I say no money now. Because I didn't know I can't carry the money. It's number one. And plus, no way Jose to send any money to them.
Yeah.
No money. I send money to my family, almost every week. Some people give me money, small money for us, I still do. My brother over there, I have 5 sisters that they have family there. They distribute that in after Jum'ah, asked me to do so. Honestly, I would love to do that, but they're not allowed to send any money for them.
Some of the organizations, big organizations, they started collecting money.
They collected, correct, but with all my respect, I don't accept that period. Why? Because there is no way impossible to send one single thing.
I think this is for the future. They're
Yes, there are some brothers for future, but it must be question. Do you think I will die or I will live? And I'm clearly to leave the masjid. Do you think I'm still alive? That's why I refuse. Because I get the money, I'm going to distribute the money. It's going to job, yes. But now the money gets kept. But the question here, if after the election there will be more problem for Muslims, more Muslims. If the government cash the MLFA, for example, spent the money, until now, millions of dollars. They cannot even get 1 single million for years. Plus the people in charge in the organization in prison. All of them in prison. I'm talking about 20 years now in prison. And the money, I'm talking about millions. And then now cannot even give it to the Palestinians. So my advice, yes, give, not now, keep it. And I cannot carry it. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is easy for everyone, yes, give it to them, to me, to everyone, to send it to inshallah. I give you an account to my family there, have many people. And the key, this organization also, I mean, when I do me and my own, I don't have an organization. I have the Money Foundation, but for education. I have an organization. I'm director for the Money Foundation. I'm director. We give the money and send it straight to my brother or my sister and the student. I give me $100, $100, not percentage for employees. Yeah, but make it easy, inshallah. We'll discuss it there, inshallah. Okay, we'll have no question now. Sunnahfollowers have a question because we have to finish, inshallah. Sunnahfollowers.
Now, one of the brothers here says, thank you for such a great informative lecture.
Thank you, God, for listening.
I apologize. I'm half the man I used to be. So next week I'll be a little bit better.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وآل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا عليك اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت اللهم أنت الناصر انصر المستضعفين في كل مكان اللهم أنت العزيز أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين واهلك الظالمين وخرج السالمين آمين 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 سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله تعالى